Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this kind of content, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you more stories like this one. Now let's get into it. G-loc. Episode 2, The Cost. They won. That was the headline scrolling across every feed on Station Saturn. Every screen in every corridor. Every display in every bar and betting hall. The Centurions beat Mars, 25-22. A hard game. A necessary game. The kind of win that keeps sponsors satisfied, keeps the station listed as viable, keeps the lights on for another quarter. On paper, it looked like momentum. Like a team finding its rhythm. Like proof that the system worked. Inside the locker room, nobody talked about momentum. They sat longer than usual, gear still half on, helmets resting between their feet. Adrenaline already fading into the kind of exhaustion that settles deep in the bones. It felt like survival bought on credit. And everyone in that room knew credit never lasts. The air was thick with the smell of sweat and synthetic coolant. The kind of smell that clings to you long after you've showered. The kind that reminds you what you've paid. Jax Rourke sat in the corner, staring at his hands. They weren't shaking. Not yet. But he could feel the tremor waiting beneath the surface. Like a fault line that hadn't cracked yet, but would. Soon. Across the room, Kiera Voss was pulling off her helmet. Slow, careful. The way you move when you're not entirely sure what your body is going to do next. Nobody said anything to her either. They'd all seen what she did in the fourth quarter. They just hadn't decided yet what to call it. Jax Rourke replayed the end of the game over and over in his head. Or at least he tried to. He remembered lining up for the final play. He remembered reading the defensive shift. Mars had stacked the left side, leaving a gap in the rotation. He remembered committing to contact, driving forward with everything he had. After that, the memory stopped. Not faded, not blurred like an old recording degrading over time. Stopped, like a recording that had been cut mid-sentence, like someone had reached into his mind and deleted the next 30 seconds. He had finished the play. Teammates confirmed it. Tank had clapped him on the shoulder afterward, said something about a perfect read. The footage confirmed it too. There he was, executing the move, securing the win. But he had not been there for it. Not consciously, not in any way that felt like choice or awareness or presence. He had been a passenger in his own body, and that terrified him more than any hit he'd ever taken in the sphere, because hits you could see coming, hits you could brace for. This was something else. This was his mind deciding he didn't need to be present anymore, that the neural pathways could handle it without him. And if that was happening now, during a game, what would happen when it started happening off the field? He thought about his daughter, about the school on Earth, about the message she'd sent him 2 days ago. A photo of the campus, green grass so vivid it looked fake, air so clean the sky had no haze in it at all. She didn't know what it cost to keep that photo possible. He wasn't going to tell her. Medbay smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. The kind of sterile environment that felt more like a laboratory than a place meant to heal people. Dr. Aris Thorne was already reviewing the scans when Jax arrived. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge Jax's presence, just kept his eyes fixed on the data rotating above the console. The images mapped neural response times in cold color gradients. Blues and greens where things were normal, yellows and oranges where they were slowing, reds where they had stopped responding altogether. There was more red than there had been last week. Thorne finally gestured toward the display without turning around. You see the lag here? Jax studied the image even though he didn't fully understand it. He'd seen enough of these scans to know what the colors meant, but the specifics, the milliseconds, the synaptic degradation rates, the neural shear coefficients, those were Thorne's domain. I see colors, Jax said. Thorne allowed himself a brief, humorless smile. Those colors are you processing slower than you used to. Your reaction time is down 8% from baseline. Your decision-making latency is up 12%. And your memory consolidation? He paused, tapping the display where a cluster of red bloomed like a wound. That's failing entirely in certain high-stress scenarios. Jax leaned back against the examination table. The metal was cold through his shirt. Slower still wins games. For now, Thorne said. That phrase hung in the air between them. For now. Not forever. Not even for long. Just for now. Thorne finally turned to face him. The doctor looked tired. Older than he had a month ago. Like the weight of what he knew was aging him faster than time alone could manage. Jax, he said quietly, we're past the point where I can tell you this is temporary. We're past the point where rest and recovery protocols will fix this. You're experiencing neural shear. The enhancements are degrading your baseline cognitive function faster than your brain can compensate. Jax said nothing. If you keep playing, I keep playing, Jax interrupted. Thorne closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had shifted in his face. Not resignation, something harder than that. Something that had been building for a while and had finally run out of room to stay quiet. I need you to hear me, Thorne said. Not as your doctor. As the only person in this building who's going to tell you the truth. One more bad hit. The kind you took in the third quarter last week. And we're not talking about memory gaps anymore. We're talking about a version of you that doesn't come back. The room was very still. Jax looked at the scan, at the red, at how much more of it there was than last time. My daughter got accepted into an Earthside program, he said finally. The kind that requires proof of stable league income, 2 more seasons minimum, he paused. I'm not asking you to lie for me, Aris. I'm asking you to give me the time I need to make that happen. Thorne looked at him for a long moment. I already filed it, he said quietly. Pending review. Everyone on Station Saturn knew what that meant. It meant never. Jax nodded once. Didn't say thank you. They both understood what had just been exchanged, and what it was going to cost Thorne to live with it. Then we manage it, Jax said. As long as we can. Thorne turned back to the display, back to the red. As long as we can, he agreed. Across the station, in a recovery suite 3 levels above the main training facility, Kiera Voss was finishing a cycle she didn't actually need. Her vitals had stabilized hours earlier. Heart rate normal, blood oxygen optimal, neural load well within acceptable parameters. The trainers kept her anyway. Data collection, they called it. Optimization review, performance trend analysis. The league loved data almost as much as it loved victories. Maybe more. Because data could be sold. Data could be modeled. Data could predict the next quarter's revenue. A performance analyst, young, efficient, clipboard in hand, approached with a slate of projections. Your acceleration curve jumped 12% last match, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. Reaction time improved by 9%. Decision-making speed up 14%. Kiera nodded, still lying on the recovery bed, electrodes still attached to her temples. Is that good? The analyst blinked, as if the question didn't compute. It's profitable, she said finally. That answer told Kiera everything she needed to know. Not, it's healthy. Not, it's sustainable. Not even it's safe. Profitable. Because that's what she was now. Not a player. Not an athlete. An asset. And assets were maintained as long as they generated returns. Kiera stared at the ceiling, at the soft blue glow of the monitoring equipment, and thought about the case Marcus had given her. The one she'd told herself she would only use once. The one she'd already opened twice. She thought about the crash afterward, the way her vision had blurred at the edges, the 30 minutes of sitting on a shower floor waiting for her hands to stop shaking. She thought about her stats before the overclock, and after it. The gap between those 2 versions of herself was getting harder to ignore. The analyst logged your numbers, the trainer said from across the room. League office will want to schedule a full enhancement review by end of the week. Kiera kept her eyes on the ceiling. And if I don't want one? A pause. That's not really how it works. She already knew that. She'd known it since she signed the contract. All 46 pages of it. Somewhere in the fine print, she had agreed to this. To being studied. To being optimized. To being a data point in someone else's revenue projection. She just hadn't understood at the time that agreeing once meant agreeing forever. She wondered if Marcus knew about the review. She wondered if he'd set it up. She wondered for the first time which side of this Marcus was actually on. Coach Silas Vance watched practice film from 3 different angles at once. He muted the audio. He didn't need commentary, didn't need analysts telling him what he could already see. He needed to see patterns, micro-adjustments, the things players didn't even know they were doing. Jax's movements were still precise, still technically correct, still the kind of execution that made highlight reels and kept scouts interested. But the transitions took longer, microseconds longer. The time between reading a play and reacting to it, the gap between decision and action, the lag between intent and execution, microseconds. Vance had spent his entire career teaching players to exploit gaps that small, to find the fraction of a second where an opponent hesitated and turn it into an advantage. Now one of those gaps belonged to his best player, and he didn't know how to fix it. The door to his office slid open. Thorne entered without knocking. He never did. "You've seen enough," Thorne said. Vance didn't turn around, kept his eyes on the screens. "Yeah." Silence followed. Not the uncomfortable kind. Not uncertainty or disagreement. Recognition. 2 men who knew exactly what the other was thinking and didn't need to say it out loud. "You pull him," Vance said eventually, "and the league starts looking at us like a failing investment. Sponsors start asking questions. Ticket sales drop. And then it's not just Jax we're talking about, it's the whole team, the whole station." "I know," Thorne replied. "You don't just bench a player here," Vance continued, his voice flat. "You trigger a cascade. One player goes down, confidence drops, performance metrics fall, and suddenly we're not competitive. And if we're not competitive, we're not profitable. And if we're not profitable..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Thorne didn't argue, didn't offer alternatives, didn't pretend there was a good answer. What he did was walk to the window, stand there looking out at the training floor below, where the next shift of players was already running drills. Young, fast, replacements who didn't know yet that's what they were. "I filed his scan under pending review," Thorne said. Vance went still. "Aris, I know what I did." The silence that followed was a different kind than before, not recognition, something heavier, the kind that settles when 2 people have crossed a line together and both understand there's no uncrossing it. "How long?" Vance asked. Thorne watched the players below. "I don't know," he said. "That's the honest answer. I genuinely don't know." Vance finally turned away from the screens. He looked older than he had at the start of the season, like the job was consuming him from the inside out at a rate he hadn't planned for. "Then we manage it," he said, "one game at a time." They both knew the truth. Jax would play until he couldn't anymore, and by the time that happened, it would be too late. The question neither of them asked out loud, the one that would keep both of them awake that night, was whether it was already too late right now. Jax trained that afternoon. Same drills, same order, same repetitions he'd followed for years. Muscle memory carved so deep it didn't require thought anymore. Routine was armor. Routine was safety. If he moved enough, thought less, let his body take over, everything still worked, mostly. A missed cue during rotation drills forced Tank Thorson to adjust mid-sequence. Tank didn't say anything, just shifted his position, compensated for the gap, kept the drill moving. But afterward, he jogged over. "You skipped the call," Tank said, not accusing, just stating a fact. Jax wiped sweat from his face with the back of his hand. "No, I didn't." Tank held his gaze for a moment, long enough that Jax understood they were no longer talking about the drill. "Jax?" "I said I didn't." Tank nodded, slow, the way a man nods when he's decided to accept an answer he doesn't believe because pushing harder won't help either of them. "All right," he said, "just checking." He started to jog back, then stopped. "My brother played 4 seasons on Titan," Tank said, still facing away. "Didn't tell anyone about his tremors until the 3rd one dropped him mid-game. By then," he paused, "by then the decision wasn't his anymore." He jogged back to his position without waiting for a response. Jax stood there for a moment. He could feel the tremor waiting beneath the surface, the same one that had been waiting all morning. He went back to his drills. That was how teammates handled things here. Not with confrontations, not with ultimatums, with the kind of quiet truth that lands between the lines, that a man can carry home with him and turn over in the dark, that costs nothing to give and everything to ignore. Jax would ignore it. He was very good at ignoring things. Evaluation week arrived quietly. No announcements, no meetings labeled as critical, no formal notifications, just more observers than usual. More people with clipboards and data slates standing at the edges of the training facility. More questions after drills, more metrics being recorded. Jax noticed people watching him finish drills instead of starting them. Timing. They were measuring timing. Reaction speed. Decision latency. All the things that degraded first when neural enhancement started to fail. He ran the drills cleaner than he felt, pushed harder, gave them nothing on the outside that matched what was happening on the inside. It worked. Mostly. Across the facility, Kiera's schedule had doubled. Extra conditioning sessions, extra neural load tests, extra recovery cycles that felt less like recovery and more like experimentation. She asked once if it was necessary. The answer was simple. You're trending upward. We maintain upward trends. Maintenance required repetition. Repetition required chemical support. Support came with side effects. No one used that phrase out loud, but everyone knew. On the third day of evaluation week, Marcus Dean appeared in the corridor outside the training facility. He was dressed the way Marcus always dressed, like the station's gravity didn't apply to him. Easy smile, zero friction. Kiera saw him before he saw her. She watched him for a moment, the way you watch someone when you haven't decided yet what you're going to say. Your numbers are pulling serious attention, Marcus said when he reached her. League office, sponsor reps, the kind of people who make careers happen. Or end them, Kiera said. Marcus smiled. Like that was funny, like she hadn't meant it. They want to schedule an enhancement review, he said. I've been managing the timeline, keeping it flexible for you. Managing it how? The way I manage everything. He said it warmly, like a man who has never once been asked to explain himself. You focus on performing. That's your job. Everything else is mine. Kiera looked at him. What's in the next case, Marcus? A beat. Just one. But she caught it. Same formula, he said. Adjusted delivery. That's not what I asked. He held her gaze, and for just a moment, just a fraction of a second, the warmth slipped. Not gone. Not cold. Just absent. Like a screen switching to standby. Then it came back. Trust the process, he said. I got you here, didn't I? He left before she could answer. She stood in the corridor for a long time after he was gone. Because in the Void League, performance wasn't optional. It was contractual. And somewhere in those 46 pages she hadn't read, she was starting to suspect the contract wasn't with the League at all. It was with Marcus. That evening, Jax stayed late in the film room. Old game footage played across the wall display. Matches from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, back when he was faster, sharper, present. Younger versions of himself moved across the screen with a fluidity he didn't recognize anymore. Reacted instantly to shifts in the defense. Made decisions without hesitation. He studied them the way engineers studied prototypes, looking for where the design changed, where the degradation started, where the person he used to be became the person he was now. Thorne found him there. The doctor stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the screens before speaking. You're not comparing, Thorne said quietly. You're negotiating. Jax didn't deny it. Tell me when I can't do this anymore. Thorne stepped into the room, leaned against the console. He looked at the screen, at the younger Jax moving with that fluid precision, and something in his face tightened. You won't hear that from me, he said. You'll decide long before anyone else does. Your body will tell you. Your mind will tell you. And when it does, you'll know. Jax kept his eyes on the screen. And if I ignore it? Thorne was quiet for a long moment. Then you'll stop being able to ignore it. The footage kept playing. The younger Jax made a cut, clean and instant, that the man watching the screen couldn't make anymore, would maybe never make again. I got a message from the League office today, Thorne said. They want to review Kiera's enhancement protocol, full audit. Jax turned from the screen for the first time. When? End of the week. Thorne paused. Whatever Marcus gave her, they know it's not standard issue. They've known for a while. They just needed the data to confirm the numbers were real before they moved on it. Jax processed that. And when they move on it? They'll reclassify her contract, renegotiate the terms. Thorne's voice was flat, clinical. The voice of a man delivering a diagnosis he doesn't like. They'll own whatever she's been taking. And by extension, everything that comes after. Jax turned back to the screen. Does she know? Not yet. The footage played. The younger Jax made another cut. Perfect. Gone. Tell her, Jax said. Thorne looked at him. That's not my place. You just told me. Jax turned again, held Thorne's gaze. You told me because someone needed to. Do the same for her, before the end of the week. A pause. She deserves to know what she's walking into. Thorne said nothing for a long moment. Then he nodded. Once, and walked out. That was the truth neither of them could write into a report. The truth that didn't fit into performance metrics or medical evaluations. The truth that the system didn't just take from players. It took from everyone inside it. And no one could tell you how much you had left to lose. Station Saturn never slowed. Ships docked at the commercial berths. Contracts processed through the administrative hubs. Ticket sales opened for the next match, and the betting markets adjusted their odds. The system did not recognize hesitation. It did not accommodate doubt. It only recognized output, continuation, momentum, and anyone who couldn't keep up was replaced. Practice resumed 2 days later. Jax took first rotation again. Still the anchor, still the veteran presence, still listed as essential personnel on the team roster, still capable. For now. Across the facility, Kiera ran her drills with the precision of someone who had spent the night making a decision. She didn't look at the observers, didn't look at the clipboards, didn't look toward the corridor where Marcus had stood. She ran the drills clean, without the overclock, without the case. Her numbers were still good, not spectacular, not the kind that made revenue projections spike. Good. She didn't know yet what the league review would find. Didn't know yet what Marcus had put in those cases, or what agreeing to take it had signed away. Didn't know yet how long it would take the truth to surface. But she had stopped adding to it. That was the only thing she controlled. For now. Because in the Void League, decline is never announced. It is measured quietly, in milliseconds and percentages and color-coded scans. It is managed quietly, with chemical support and adjusted training loads and carefully worded medical reports. It is accepted quietly. By players who know the cost, by coaches who know the system, by doctors who know the truth, and by the time anyone says it out loud, by the time anyone admits what everyone already knows, it has already happened. The decision has already been made. The replacement is already training. And the player who gave everything is already gone. Unless someone decides before the window closes to do something the system never planned for. To tell the truth. Next time on G-loc, The Audit. Thanks for listening to G-loc Episode 2. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss Episode 3. Your support helps us keep creating this kind of content. Drop a comment and let me know what you thought, and whether you think Kiera made the right call. Until next time, stay grounded.